Have you ever felt just completely trapped inside your own head? Like you're exhausted, you're totally drained, but your mind just will not stop spinning. It's turning out worst-case scenarios or replaying that one super awkward conversation from 3 years ago, or it's convincing you that everyone around you is secretly mad at you. It's this heavy, visceral pain. And let's be real, overthinking and anxious thoughts can literally ruin your life. Why? Because they can actually manifest the exact situations you're terrified of simply because you start acting out the fear instead of living in reality. If you're stuck in this endless mental loop right now, I just want to say, your exhaustion makes total sense. It is completely valid.
So, welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us. Today, we're unpacking the psychology of overthinking. We're looking at some incredible insights from clinical psychologists, and we've found some truly fascinating explanations for exactly why our brains betray us like this. But even more importantly, we're going to look at some concrete, practical skills we can use to actually stop it in its tracks. Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with number 1, the overthinking trap. Number 2, the lens of your thoughts. 3, uncovering hidden triggers. 4, the skill of diffusion. And finally, number 5, taking back control. All right, let's just jump right in.
Section 1. The overthinking trap. Why our minds don't stop.
Okay, so there's this simple but honestly profound concept we really need to wrap our heads around first. Your brain is a word machine. Just think about that for a second. Your brain is constantly generating thoughts, spinning these elaborate narratives, and creating completely unwritten rules literally all day long, completely without your conscious permission. It just says stuff and thinks stuff all the time. Some of it is true, some of it is totally false, some of it's helpful, and, well, a whole lot of it is definitely not. You have millions of thoughts a day. But the trap is that you don't even notice you're having them. You just automatically believe them.
The big problem is, we swim through our thoughts kind of like a fish swims through water, right? A fish doesn't even know it's wet. And often, we don't even know we're actively thinking. We just unconsciously accept these passing negative thoughts as absolute reality. We don't realize that the way we think is actively coloring our view of the entire world. I mean, if your brain's word machine keeps churning out the idea that the world is a terrible, mean place, well, that is exactly the water you're going to swim in.
Moving on to Section 2, the lens of your thoughts, how thoughts dictate us.
So absolutely crucial to all of this is understanding this clinical term right here, cognitive fusion. Basically, this is the state of buying into every single passing thought. It's that huge problem of being hopelessly superglued to your subconscious narratives. The experts point to a really telling story about a young man named Miguel. Now, Miguel had terrible social anxiety at parties. He would constantly overthink every single thing he said, absolutely terrified he might offend someone. Well, it turns out Miguel was heavily fused to a subconscious unwritten rule playing on repeat in his head: I am never allowed to make anyone feel bad. He didn't even know he had this rule, but because he was so fused to it, he bought the thought hook, line, and sinker. That created this paralyzing anxiety and made him want to bolt from every social event early.
Notice the massive difference in how we can actually handle these thoughts. On the left side, we have cognitive fusion. This is exactly like wearing your thoughts as a pair of glasses. You're looking through them to see the world. But now look at cognitive diffusion on the right. This is the psychological skill of essentially taking those glasses off, holding them in your own 2 hands, and looking at your thoughts as an outside observer. When you look at your thoughts this way, you suddenly realize you are the thinker. You are the space where the thoughts happen. You are not the thoughts themselves. Real game changer, right?
This brings us to Section 3, uncovering hidden triggers, finding the root cause.
Okay, to really understand our triggers, we've got to look at something called core beliefs. These are deep-seated, often completely unconscious assumptions we hold about ourselves and the world around us. For example, a core belief might be something incredibly heavy, like I am unlovable, which could have been formed by early childhood patterns, inconsistent parenting, or even trauma. In the past, you naturally developed survival strategies just to cope with that painful belief. But here's the kicker. Now, in your adult life, those outdated survival strategies are still running in the background like old software. Your brain is overreacting to minor modern stressors simply because it thinks it's fighting a historical life-or-death threat to your safety. Let's look at how this builds into a classic overthinking spiral. Say, when someone doesn't text you back fast enough. Look at the raw facts on the left. That person is probably just busy. Honestly, that's it. But triggered by a core belief of being unlovable, your feelings on the right completely hijack the situation. Your brain screams, they are going to abandon me. You literally create a fearful fiction out of thin air.
Overthinking is basically just creating situations out of fear that might never even happen. When we overthink, we are acting out of our deep triggers instead of just looking at the plain facts.
All right, Section 4, the skill of diffusion, separating from thoughts.
We saw this phrase earlier, but let's define cognitive diffusion really clearly now. It's the psychological skill of noticing and separating yourself from your thoughts without fighting them. And I want to emphasize that, without fighting them. This is wildly different from traditional therapies where you might aggressively challenge a thought or try to logically prove it wrong. Because guess what? Fighting your thoughts just steals your attention and keeps you trapped right in the loop. Diffusion is about acknowledging the thought, maybe even saying, hey, thank you, mind, for that thought, but consciously choosing not to buy it.
So how do we actually practically do this? Let's rapidly run through 4 concrete techniques recommended by the experts. Number 1, when a negative thought hits you, just add the phrase, I notice I'm having the thought that, right in front of it. Boom, it instantly creates psychological distance. Number 2, give the thought a name. Call it Billy Bob. Saying, oh, look, Billy Bob is popping up again today, reminds you that the thought is just a character. It's not you. Number 3, take a trigger word like awkward and literally just say it out loud over and over again until it sounds like a weird, meaningless jumble of sounds. It completely proves your brain is just a word machine. And number 4, try visualizing the bad thought as a bubble in your head and mentally take a little needle and pop it the very second it arises.
Now there's a fascinating physical application to diffusion too. The experts shared this really powerful anecdote about a young woman struggling with the thought, I'm unlovable. To actively separate from it, she wrote those exact words on a physical 10-pound rock. When she bought into the thought, she literally carried this heavy rock around with her. But when she consciously chose to just notice the thought without buying it, she physically set the rock down. It is such a great way to make the invisible visible. It proves you can absolutely acknowledge a heavy thought exists in the room without having to carry it around on your shoulders.
And finally, Section 5, taking back control, grounding and aligning. You know, sometimes you just can't think your way out of a bad mood. Actually, scratch that. You almost never can. You have to ground your biology first. Step 1, voice your thoughts in the moment. If something triggers you, say it, calmly right then and there. This completely stops resentment from quietly building up and keeps your mind free of those unnecessary, lingering imaginary arguments. Step 2, when anxiety hits, your breathing gets super fast and shallow, which triggers panic. You can counteract this with box breathing. That's inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And this is crucial. Extend your out-breath. Making your exhale longer and more vigorous than your inhale sends a direct biological signal to your nervous system that you are totally safe.
Once your body is finally calm, you must align your actions. And to do that, we need to understand the big difference between goals and values. Look at goals on the left. These are finite finish lines. You pass an exam, you check a box, boom, it's done. But values on the right are a lifelong, continuous pathway. You can't always control your anxiety or your intrusive thoughts, but you can always evaluate if you are walking on the path of your values. Let's say your value is to be a kind, enthusiastic partner. Well, you can choose to step right back onto that specific path regardless of whatever chaotic thoughts are currently bouncing around inside your word machine.
We're going to end on this single, absolutely profound question. Ask yourself, does buying this thought make my life better? Does it actually help you live out your values? If it doesn't, you don't have to fight it, but you definitely don't have to buy it. Learning about this absolutely changed my perspective. You literally have the power to take off the glasses, set down the rock, and finally curate the life you actually want to live. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. I'll catch you in the next one.